All right, thank you so much for being here for the World Refugee Day panel, Understanding the Refugee Experience and Advocating for Resettlement. My name is Jasmine. I'm here with the Center for Immigrant and Refugee Health, and I'll be facilitating today's webinar with Dr. Rafiola Sadiq. Dr. Rafi, if you'd like to introduce yourself and our speakers, that would be great.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. My name is Rafiola Sadiq, and I work with the health support team as Refugee Health Navigator. And I'm here to introduce today's speaker. Good afternoon, everyone, again. Today, we are pleased to be joined by three distinguished professionals who bring a wealth of experience in refugee resettlement, legal service, and community support. Each of them will share valuable insight from their work and discuss the overall state of refugee support in California. Our first speaker is Mr. Ahmed Ghouri, caseworkers supervisor at the IRC in Sacramento. Mr. Ghouri is an experienced resettlement professional with over a decade of experience supporting refugee and displaced population. Originally from Afghanistan, he holds a Bachelor of Science in Border Management from Bishkek, Kazakhstan, and A.S. in Administration of Justice from American River College. His professional background includes work with several national and international organizations, including IRC, American River College, the U.S. Mission in Afghanistan, UNOPS, GOAL, and ACTED. The next one, please. And our second speaker is Mr. Ahmed Zaki Qurbani, an immigration legal representative with IRC in Sacramento. Mr. Qurbani holds a master's degree in public administration from the University of Pacific and has been working with the IRC for over 3 years. In his current role, he supports refugees and immigrant community through legal guidance and advocacy. Our final guest speaker is Ms. Leah Thromick, Managing Attorney at CWS in Northern California. Ms. Thromick is a dedicated immigration attorney and with more than 20 years of diverse legal services. In her current role, she leads the legal department at CWS oversees complex immigration cases and mentor a team of attorneys, paralegals, and volunteers. Her career has been marked by a strong commitment to justice, having represented asylum seekers, survivors of violence, and vulnerable youth. Ms. Thromick is fluent in English and Spanish, conversational in Hebrew, and holds a law degree from University of Los Angeles, where she earned a JD and LL in Energy and Environment. She is licensed to practice law in New York, Mississippi, Texas, and California. We are pleased to welcome all three of the guest speakers to today's webinar. Thank you so much, and back over to you, Jasmine.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rafi. So today we'll start with just having some opening remarks, and then I will have our partners from IRC Sacramento share about some policy updates regarding the Afghan community, the Afghan refugee experience, and then Leah from Church World Services will share about the Ukrainian community, and we'll close with a Q&A. I'll ask that you put your questions in the chat if you have them, and we'll be sure to get to your questions at the end of the webinar. And so to ground us for today's presentations, I wanted to take a moment to just revisit a framework that some of you might already be familiar with, the triple trauma paradigm. And if this concept isn't new to you, I believe it's one that's worth coming back to again and again, just to humanize the experiences that we're going to be talking about today. So this paradigm reminds us that trauma doesn't start or end at a border. It unfolds across 3 interconnected phases: pre-migration, the migration journey itself, and post-migration or resettlement. Each stage brings its own unique challenges, and as we're talking about policy updates and changing political landscapes, I think it's important to remind ourselves of some of the deep and lasting impacts that each of these stages can have on an individual's health and well-being. The journey of forced migration often begins with devastating disruption. People are pushed to flee their homes because of war, political oppression, ethnic or religious violence, and other human rights abuses. And right now, according to the UNHCR, there are roughly 2.6 million Afghan refugees, many of whom have endured decades of conflict. And for Ukrainians, the Russian invasion has displaced about 6.9 million people globally. Behind these numbers are real human stories, people who have faced threats, arrest, discrimination, and long stretches of hiding, and many are forced to stay silent about who they are, what they believe, just in order to survive. And yet there's still a common misunderstanding that once someone escapes their country, that the worst is over, but for many, the journey itself becomes a secondary trauma. And this space is often filled with fear and instability, being separated from loved ones, unsafe travel conditions, threat of arrest, deportation, little access to health care. And in resettlement, the third phase brings its own challenges, with people adjusting to new languages, unfamiliar systems, trying to rebuild their lives while also carrying the weight of losing a homeland, identity, culture, and the worry of family members who have been left behind. These are struggles that refugees have always faced, but today they're compounded by the political climate that leaves many people fearing that the protections that they once received could suddenly be taken away. And as we talk about trauma, we're not just talking about personal pain, we're talking about something that shapes entire communities across generations. And recognizing that is essential if we want to create refugee support systems that are truly trauma-informed, inclusive, and grounded in the cultural and political realities that people like Afghans and Ukrainians are facing today. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Ahmad Jan, who's going to share more about the realities of resettlement today for many Afghans.
Thank you, Jasmine. Hi, everybody. Give me a second to share my screen. Perfect. Hi, everybody. So I'm going to talk about the services covered by the reception and placement known as the resettlement process, or RMP, and the importance, why it's important. Basically, the services are covered within the reception and placement program actually helps the newcomers to successfully integrate into their new society, and at the same time help them toward their self-sufficiency. Before going to that one, I will give you an overview of how actually the refugee admission works. So basically, the UNHCR, embassy, NGOs, or other agencies refer clients, or I would call it clients, the newcomers, to the refugee support centers where they conducting a pre-screening interview. With that said, once the pre-screening interview is completed, they are referred to the for an immigration interview for DHS or USCIS. And once their interview is completed through that one, and they go through an extensive waiting process, once they are approved, they are going to be referred to the IOM. Basically, the IOM is completing their medical screening, their first medical screening overseas, and providing them with a cultural orientation. It's basically a basic cultural orientation. Once these steps are completed, the refugee cases are allocated to resettlement agency by refugee processing centers, where the National Resettlement Agency completes the verification of placement with the local field offices, and the National Resettlement Agency assure the cases. Once the whole process is complete, the case is going back to the IAM for flight booking. So the reception and placement is actually is 90 days case management services for the refugees, and that includes SIV as well. And the whole goal of this one is to direct the refugees toward the self-sufficiency and successful integration into their new communities. We divide that one in 3 steps. Basically, the refugee resettlement actually starts pre-arrival and then continues to post-arrivals and post-resettlement period. So pre-arrival services, actually, if the case has a USTI consultation, and at the same time, the resettlement agencies are securing housing and setting up their housing in apartments with the basic needs. That includes furniture and other basic needs. And definitely on the first day of arrival, they arrange hot meal for them, initial groceries or whatever is needed for the first week. And at the same time, we do the resettlement agency complete the airport pickup followed by then home visit. And once the refugee arrives in the home visit, they actually orient them with the basic safety orientation, and they help them with the signing lease and utilities and other setups that as needed. So this is very crucial part of the refugee resettlement process, housing. The housing is very challenging to secure in America for everybody, especially for the newcomers with no credit or anything. Resettlement agencies actually build up the relationship with the local landlords in their areas to help refugees secure housing. The first 30 days is the most busiest time for the refugees, where we conduct the intake interview, which we create a resettlement plan known as a service plan, where we identify barriers and goals for the refugees. Within the first 30 days, a lot of application that includes the public benefits if needed, and for apply for medical insurance, help clients applying for the women, infant, and children services and social security if needed. The same time, the resettlement agencies are actually helping clients to complete their health screening and the needed immunization. Followed by the processing their and helping them to get the social security, complete AR11 forms as needed, and selective services for their youth. The school enrollment is part of these services. ESL and employment, which is another crucial part, is part of these services covered by the resettlement program. And within the 30 days, the resettlement agencies mostly do another home visit with the clients to go over the services if anything is pending toward that. Same time, from 30 days to 60 days, refugees are provided with the cultural orientation. It's a comprehensive program. Basically, they go over the nutritional services, basic laws, their rights, and other services available to the refugees. That includes also a public transportation orientation. We know that when the refugees arrive, that's one of the key things to go from point A to point B, to help them understand how the public transportation works in their area. And definitely the resettlement team and their location, they are making the follow-ups with the refugees to see if any additional services are needed or any pending services are still pending. Then we end up with from 60 to 90 days. It's basically we call it the quiet area for the refugees. Basically here we play the role for the refugees to see if any pending services are, if any services are pending, at the same time any additional support is needed. The same time, between 60 to 90 days, the resettlement team is actually creating a transitional budget with the counseling with the client to explain them what are their financial situation at the moment and what needs to be done to successfully transition from resettlement to post-resettlement period. And definitely, if there is any additional service or needed, clients will be referred and connected to the additional services. That was the whole services covered by resettlement process, and that's actually helps the clients and refugees to successfully integrate to their society and toward their self-sufficiency. I will stop by here and back to you, Jasmine.
Thank you so much for providing that overview, Ahmed. And we know that resettlement agencies have been defunded, experiencing a lot of budget cuts, and we just want to emphasize the importance of the services that you're providing for the community. They really are essential. And I'll pass it to Zaki to share more about some of the immigration side of things.
All right, very good afternoon, everybody. So I'm going to focus in this presentation on immigration statuses and pathways available for Afghans, and of course I'm going to cover some of the restriction recently impacted Afghan communities, whether here in the United States and living abroad and waiting to come to the United States. And this presentation, I do not have any intention to provide any legal advice. It's only for general information. So first of all, refugee status, whether there is any impact, policy impact on the refugee status and the people that they are coming or admitted into the United States as a refugee. Unfortunately, yes, suspension of refugee admission has happened very recently in January 2025 based on the executive order issued by the current administration. As you may know, Afghans used to come through the refugee admission program, whether through United Nations or P1, P2 programs, but this suspension have restricted that program, and as of now, no Afghan is coming or admitted as a refugee into the United States through a refugee admission program. The other one is asylum. Fortunately, there is no restriction to Afghan asylum seekers, whether they have legal entry into the United States or they have entered illegally into the United States. As you may know, that there are two pathways to file for asylum. One is through immigration court, which is defensive filing of asylum, and the other one is administrative to USCIS. None of those pathways have been impacted by recent policy changes, other than some news that we have seen that people, Afghans, have been detained, but officially there hasn't been any restriction in that regard. And a special immigrant visa, within the society, within the Afghan community, there has been some concerns related to HIV, but luckily or fortunately, I should say, that no restriction has limited special immigrant visa, even though there has been Afghan ban, but that is only for refugee recipients. But HIV holders, whether they are still in Afghanistan or any other country, willing to come to the United States, they still can utilize the program if they have the required documents. They can file, or if they have any pending HIV, they still can come to the United States with the program. Or Afghans that they are already here in the United States, whether they had been paroled in or they have TPS, temporary protected status, if they do have the required document, they still can file for SID program. So parolees, parole, even though it's not an immigration status, it's like TPS but a little bit different. As you may know, a lot of Afghans, after what happened in Afghanistan in 2021, have been paroled into the United States for 2 years, and then they had the opportunity to re-parole, to apply for re-parole, but unfortunately that has been suspended. No Afghan here in the United States can apply for re-parole. And but they had this hope to switch from parole to TPS, which is my next subject to talk about. But unfortunately, TPS was terminated as well. As you may know, TPS first designated for 18 months initially, and then it was redesignated for another 18 months. But unfortunately, on May of this year, DHS has announced the termination of the program. The recipient of TPS now no longer have the opportunity to file for TPS, and they have to seek other pathways, or they should seek consultation with attorneys, or they can refer to organizations that they provide immigration services, so they can analyze and seek to find to adjust their status. But fortunately, we still have family-based petitions. Family-based petition doesn't mean only for Afghans that they are outside the United States. Still, a U.S. citizen can file for their Afghan relatives, whether they are already here in the United States, or they have been admitted, or they have been paroled into the United States, and they have not changed yet their status. They can use this opportunity if they have any U.S. citizen relatives. They can use the program. LPRs, they do still have, it's still there. Afghans can use this pathway to adjust their status. But there are a variety of levels into this opportunity. Refugees and asylees, they still have these recent restriction has not impacted the petition of refugees and asylees for their relatives. And as far as IRC's programs go, we provide services for either Afghans or non-Afghan clients. We provide services to adjust their status, family-based petition, employment authorization, removal of conditional residency or travel document. These are the services that they're not limited to this, but these are some of the services that we provide here in IRC Sacramento. And maybe at the end, if opportunity allows, I'm gonna share our consultation flyers and our referral list to our attendees today. As Jasmine said, we may have a time for question at the end of this presentation. Thank you very much. Jasmine, back to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Saki. Yeah, I'm sure that we'll have lots of questions at the end, so I will pass it to Liat now to share, and then we'll get to your questions at the end of the webinar.
Okay, great. Hello, everybody. I'm Liat Romick. I'm an attorney at CWS, and I work here for over 2 years, mainly with humanitarian applications for Ukrainians and Afghans. And unfortunately, since the invasion of Ukraine started, there's at least 7 million people that have been displaced outside Ukraine. 4 million are internally displaced. And we've been, Ukraine has been having the brunt of the attacks in the last months. There were, on June 1st, for example, there were 472 drones launched in one day, which is causing a lot of destruction and just in electricity, home, schools have been obliterated. Most of the children have to go to bunkers now to continue with their education. And so a lot of our clients come here and they are ask us like, what can we do to stay here and stay out of harm's way, or how can we bring our family? Most of them will ask me about asylum, and I try to explain to them the basics of asylum for them to like, so they can start looking and seeing whether they can qualify. Unfortunately, and every time I tell them that is, war is not a reason for asylum, to request for asylum. They have to have a particular rise uh, harm, right? So um, so here. So I explained to them that to qualify for asylum, you need to be afraid to go back to your country because you have suffered past persecution, or because you are afraid that you will suffer persecution once you get back. And the persecution cannot be just like, oh, I'm gonna threaten you because you look blonde today, or tomorrow you just change your hair to red. It has to be, there has to be kind of like a nexus in between the persecution and like, or on a protected ground. That's how it's called. So a protected ground would be because of your race, religion, nationality, membership in a particular social group, which is a very complex theme, and political opinion. So they would come and tell me, yeah, my political opinion is such and such. I'm afraid to go back because I am afraid of that, right? I've never been persecuted before because of this, but I think that it might happen because this is my political opinion. So I will explain to them, well, you need to have had expressed that political opinion, or that a political opinion has to be imputed to you just because of where you live, or because you were in an area where Russia has invaded. Um, so I go through with them through the steps, right? So we talk about their lives and just figure out, oh, maybe you would qualify for asylum, right? And then there's other hurdles to go through, which is the applicant has to be able to show that nowhere else in Ukraine is safe for them to relocate and be safe, and that the country where they live is unable or unwilling to protect them, right? Um, so what constitutes persecution? Persecution would be like threats, like it can be threats plus. I call it like threats plus, like they came and they did something to you. It cannot be only just like random threats. Oh, I'm gonna call you. I'm gonna kill you today, because that won't work. It has to be, you have to add like some kind of other element to the threat. Okay. So not every threat will work as a persecution, and not every act of violence against a person will work. Okay. So I try to explain to my clients that asylum, especially for Ukrainians, it's very, very hard to show. But in some cases, we can, but we have to go through all the other facts of their case. So I didn't want to go into asylum too deep because, as I said, it's not very easy to show, especially the hurdles of relocation, and the part that your country is unwilling, because they are trying to fight a war against Ukraine and against Russia, and they're trying to do it. It's not that they are not. They might not be successful in preventing all the drones and trying to just have like a peace agreement signed. But this part is hard, the relocation, where they have to show that if they don't move to another area of the country, they are not going to be safe. And having a home in an area that is not safe, it's not enough. Maybe like for example, in some cases I've used the, like, oh, you don't have anybody in this area and no other one to support me. I have a family. I need to go back to work. I don't have where to leave my kids. So that's a way that you can just show it. Yeah, listen, I cannot move anywhere else. This is anywhere, like there's nothing. I have to move somewhere else outside of Ukraine. Then to apply for asylum, most people that have come from Ukraine are here either on a tourist visa, some of them, but the majority have come through the U4U program. And people that are here in the U4U program will file for asylum with the USCIS instead of the immigration court. How it would work is like they file the application with USCIS and go through an interview with an asylum officer, and the asylum officer will make a decision there. If the case is not successful, then the immigration officer will send the case to the judges for them to take another look at the case, right? Which we would call it the defensive process. And then the judge would make a decision at that point, which is a different. It's like being in the courthouse with the the attorney for immigration questioning you, the judge questioning you, as opposed to only at the asylum officer, which happens at the beginning. Okay. In January, President Trump issued an executive, well, it's not an executive, issued a memorandum to USCIS telling them to stop any applications from any Ukrainians that has been filed. So any persons that were filing for TPS or for reparole, those applications were not being reviewed. Even people filing for asylum, as long as in your application it says that you entered as an UHP, like your application was frozen. However, there was a lawsuit against that memo, and in recently, May 28th, a federal judge issued a ruling ordering DHS, USCIS to continue to review the applications from all the Ukrainians that have entered as UHPs. So as of now, I haven't heard of a lot of cases being decided yet since May 28th, but I've heard of some being issued. So TPSs have there's some decisions on TPSs and on reparoles, which is good news if they were approved. But so as we know, a TPS is designation, like, so the Secretary of State makes a designation that a country is going through strife, so people that are here from those countries can stay safe from deportation or removal for depending on the time that the designation has been made by the secretary, and the secretary can designate it for 6, 12, or 18 months. Some of the TPS countries, I know Trump has, like, they have not been designated again, but Ukraine continues to be one of those countries that they can continue to apply for TPS. The eligibility for TPS are that the person is a resident of the country that has been designated, has been present in the United States, and has continuously resided in the United States since the dates specified by the Secretary of Homeland Security. For Ukraine, is designated through October 19, 2026, and the registration period run from January 17, 2025 through March 18, 2025. So the re-registration period has closed already. For people that had not been on TPS before, they could initially register through April 2025. So people that didn't do it up to those points, they can still do it, but they have to show that they failed to register because of very good costs. So they would have to show that serious mental illness, they were hospitalized, there was a death in the family, homelessness, lack of legal resources, lack of like they didn't understand the language. So they would have to write a letter to DHS explaining to them why they missed the deadlines to apply for initial registration or for re-registration. So it's a much more difficult hurdle. And they would be designated all the way up to March, April of 2026, where they are protected from deportation. So as we know, since the Trump also stopped reviewing all the humanitarian parole applications, but as of now, apparently they are again reviewing them. Okay, so these paroles were all done through you for you. That doesn't mean that people are not allowed to apply for regular humanitarian parole, that it's available for everybody by showing that you need to unite, like for different things that might be happening in your house, right? So for example, you need to reunite with a family member because they have been suffering traumatic events. Your house got destroyed. You need to stay in safety in the United States because where you live, it's very dangerous. So you could still show that you qualify for humanitarian parole. However, the U4U program was stopped, and like people from here are not able to sponsor people in Ukraine to come through that program. Okay. Unfortunately, people that are here on parole are able to file for reparole again. However, I've heard stories of other attorneys saying that some of these reparoles have been denied because they didn't show that they couldn't go back for because the country conditions in their countries have changed. So I would, for people that are filing for reparole, I would continue to include like a letter explaining what happens in their house got destroyed, and go to the Department of State where they have the country conditions by countries and print something explaining to the officer that is going to review your application that that the conditions in fact have not changed, and then their 2 year of reparole should be reissued. Okay. I have here, and I can share, like there's a lot more detail in the slides, so I can share the slides so we can, like everybody can get them with the dates and everything, like more details. Also, as Ahmad was talking about, there's also family reunification, people that are here or abroad and have a family member that can petition for them. For example, they came here, they want asylum, they are able to file an I-730 that within the 2 years that they want asylum, and bring their family members that are under 21 or who are over 21, but when the application for asylum was filed, they were under 21. Or they can file an I-130 for family members that are immediate relatives. That would be the parents and their children under 21, or married sons of daughters of U.S. citizens, or spouses and children of married sons and daughters of permanent residents. So there's a whole list, and different categories, and that has to do with this, that it's the visa bulletin. So for example, immediate relatives of U.S. citizens, that's it, parents and children under 21, always can apply immediately, but like the other categories, F1 to F4, will need to have a visa available, and that visa can be found in the visa bulletin. So for example, somebody filed for their married son or daughter that is over 21, that would be an F1 category, on January of 1999. So for them to file, they would have to wait until in the visa bulletin, you can find the date here that says January 1st of 2017. It's a little complicated process, but everything is updated by the month, and usually there's new visas being loaded into the visa like every October. So in a couple of months, a lot of these numbers are going to change. Okay. So as I said, like an I-730 can be filed by a refugee or an asylee to petition for their spouse or their children under 21. And the relationship had to exist at the time the filing of the application. Okay. The process can be done in the United States, or it can be done with the Department of State, depending on where the person is. If the person is abroad, the process is filing the I-130 in the United States. And once that's approved, USCIS will refer that to the Department of State that has like a whole program that is called the MVC. And in future, what we want to do is advocate. Let's try to, so for example, right now, Ukrainians that are paroled in the United States can be petitioned by a family member to stay here as a spouse, or like a parent can petition for their child, or vice versa. But that cannot happen if you entered and somebody wants to sponsor you through employment, because of nuances on the way that you enter the United States. Okay, so good ways for us to advocate is advocate for advanced parole for people that are here on parole, so they can leave the country and visit their parents or their family while they're here. Fast-tracked work visas, and we allow, as I was saying, allow employers to sponsor parolees without them having to leave the country, and extend benefits for Ukrainians that arrived past September of 2023. I know that there's Senator Durbin just introduced that legislation where it was aimed at protecting Ukrainians that are here during the time that hostilities continue in Ukraine. And so I know this is very fast and it's like a lot of information for this little time, but I'm here to answer any questions. And of course, we help Ukrainians and Afghans in their applications as well, if they qualify as because they came before September 2023 or September 2022.
Thank you so much for your presentation, Liat. I know we are getting tons of questions in the Q&A box that I'll read out to you. I also invite people on the call, if you would like to ask your question out loud, you can raise your hand and I can unmute you. But I'll start with the questions in the chat box. So one question is, with the current immigration changes, are there specific arrivals who will be affected? If so, how can we support them? I believe this question was asked when Zaki, you were presenting about the Afghan community, so I think this is more directed towards Afghans.
Uh, so if I get the question correct, if the new Afghans come to the United States, whether they face any challenges or not, uh, as long as they have come with through SIV program, as we all know, and as I mentioned in my presentation, that refugee program is banned, so no Afghan can come through a refugee program. So if it is related to SIV, no, there is no restriction on SIV. They can come, but of course, the resettlement aspect of new arrivals, as my colleague Mr. Ghori mentioned, that's a different story. But in terms of immigration, no, there is no challenges that they face when they come to the United States.
Thank you. All right. I see Hatisha asked a question in the chat. I'm gonna allow them to ask live. Hatisha, I think you can come off mute now.
Thank you. So can you hear me?
Yes, he can hear you.
Thank you so much. So actually, this is regarding SSI benefits. I'm a former refugee myself from Kosovo, and I'm an attorney at law. I handle SSI applications for refugees and others. The question, I guess, is three questions very briefly. The main important one is when some of my clients from Afghanistan or others, need to prove that they don't have a house back home or they don't have a pension or so forth, and they struggle to get that because of the war. And I myself have been in a war and know how it is. So, but then it's hard to prove that the income and resources, and that will be fatal on their cases. So, is there any way if your offices have a way how to advocate for that? So, I'm wondering, in addition to what I do as an SSI attorney and an advocate as well.
Yeah, wondering if our presenters got the question or if you'd like Atisha to repeat the question.
Yeah, of course. So pretty much about the as an attorney for SSI benefits, I have quite a bit of refugee clients, and some of them struggle to prove that they don't have a house back home, for example, or a pension. Some of the income and resources criteria that are required for SSI, which is supplemental security income benefits for new arrivals. So, and given that there's a war circumstances back home in Afghanistan or Ukraine or you name it, so how they will be able to prove that? I'm wondering if your offices, usually nonprofits, have some ways to have a connection with different Social Security offices, or perhaps with Congresswoman's office, and so forth. I do my own advocacy in my own way as a former refugee, but I'm wondering if you guys as organizations have different channels, ethical and legal channels, how to help the community, the SSI refugees on that end.
Actually, I can jump in and give you a little bit
Please.
information on that
Thank
one.
you.
Yes. Basically, we help some of the clients to apply for the SSI benefits, but we never face such kind of challenge, I would say. But
Okay.
there could be some situation that they are asking for more information. I'm not sure how to direct you to somebody to prove how to they don't have anything down there. It's going to be hard, but I think in the past, based on my experience, the SSI should request some sort of, I would say, a statement from the clients. I'm not sure if they're still doing the same thing, but I do remember it was way back in 2000. More than 8 years ago, we had a case, and most of the time, I know you are familiar with the system. They are sending them to the to the courts, and the judge decides what to do. But as per as my experience, it's only a statement from the client.
Okay, thank you. So in my experience, they were asking for more, I'm not, discounting what you are saying. Thank you, sir, for your input. So if at least what I was advised, I don't know if this can help anyone, but I was advised that, Source Security have the public relation department, and in some cases, I email them, and the agencies can also connect with them as well, and they can provide free workshops. So I'm wondering if anyone needs that type of help, perhaps, I can connect you guys with them. But to me, has been a struggle with Ukrainians and others as well, because sometimes statement was not sufficient, and sometimes it is. But I was wondering if there's any other resource available. So thank you for that. And just the last question is, if there is any medical cover, does medical cover any PhD trauma trained doctor to do the neuropsychological evaluation like we had in our county here? Dr. Chaffee, for example. I have seen some of the clients, my SSI clients in particular, struggle to be approved because the PhD doctors are not, trained in trauma at all. And speaking in the beginning of this presentation, how trauma is very helpful. And I know from my personal experience and mental health, I don't mean trauma is helpful, but I mean trauma, training would be very helpful. So wondering, does IRC or other related organizations here know any, PhD doctor that is covered by the medical to help SSI applicants? Thank you.
Yeah, I just responded to your question, Hatisha.
Thank you
If
so
I'm not sure
much.
if you're already connected with Partnerships for Trauma Recovery in Berkeley. I don't
No,
know
I'm
if
not.
there's. So
Thank you
they
so
work,
much.
yeah, they work with the Human Rights Clinic in San Francisco,
Oh,
and they do psycho evals for clients for free. I can share that information with you via
yeah,
email.
that would be very, very helpful.
Sure.
Sorry to interrupt you. I just want to be mindful of everyone's time. Thank you so much. I'm going to screenshot this. Appreciate it. Thank you both.
Thank you. All right. So just to remind everyone, we do have until 1:30, so if you have additional questions, please put them in the chat. There's another question from Wida. After the travel ban was lifted for Afghans, are lawful permanent residents, green card holders still allowed to file Form I-130 petitions for their family members, such as a spouse or child?
The answer is yes. An Afghan LPR is based on the law, immigration law, is they do have that possibility, or they are allowed to file for their immediate family members, for their children under 28 and married, and also their son and daughter over 21. So they do have this based on the law to file for their immediate family members, and they still can do that. But the travel ban is something, it's a policy based thing, but petitioning for your immediate family member is a law that has not been changed.
Thank you. All right. I know that this isn't really a space for offering legal advice, but I will ask the question, and if you feel like you can respond to it, please go ahead. But there is someone that's asking, I entered the US with a tourist visa as an Afghan, then applied for asylum in the first 6 months of entry. Now it's been 3 years and I don't have any interviews scheduled yet, plus my work authorization renewal has been pending for over 6 months now, and I have yet to receive any news on my work authorization renewal.
I answer that question in a general term. Uh, as far as the asylum is concerned, that is so unfortunate that it takes it 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 can take a year. I have seen people that they have waited for 15, 16, 18 years for their asylum to be granted. And lately, of course, after 150 days, you filed for asylum, you can file for your work authorization. It used to take at least 2, 3 years ago, it used to take 6 months to get your employment authorization card, but lately it's taking a little bit longer, a year or so. But yeah, even though you have entered the US legally with the visitor visa B1, B2, but yeah, that's something that you gotta wait and see when you get your asylum approval.
Thank you, Zaki. Irina, did you have a question?
I just wanted to follow up with Atiche. I apologize if I pronounce your name in wrong way. On your previous question in terms of how to add additional source of documents to show proof that the clients don't have a housing, or how to show a proof. I know in Ukrainian cases right now, all the losses which is happening right now in Ukraine, it's very documented in terms of media and different like a platform where you actually can track which houses been destroyed as that, or like a week ago. And it might be optional to show us a proof. I didn't know how it's look like in a legal scenario, how you have to attach it, but I know a few media channel platform where you can show this proof. And also you can conduct like data from like past 2-3 weeks, how many drones attack was happening in this region specifically. So you can find this information and translate it to English language. Sometimes it's even available on this like Ukrainian media platform. I will be happy to share this maybe as potential instrument to show a proof. This family, they don't have opportunity to back because the home is not there, or the region there it's occupied, or it's you can show this in proof through the web different web resources.
Thank you. Very helpful.
Thank you, Irina. Any other questions for our speakers?
Hey, I have a question. So can I expedite for pending asylum? And what are the reasons I can give for expediting my asylum case?
Really, it's their discretion. You can always email them the asylum office where your application is, and ask if you could get an expedited date, and they might just allow it or not.
For example, given a medical exam, for example, the pending asylum is impeding you to give a medical exam. Is this a valid reason to give for expediting?
I'm not understanding the question.
So, for example, I want to give a medical exam, but my pending asylum case is impeding with that. Can I give this reasoning for expediting my case, or it should be only health related issues for expediting from my case?
Probably health-related issues. I don't
Okay.
know what medical exam we're speaking about, but
Okay. Thank you.
And I'll ask that our speakers also share their contact information and how to make referrals as well. If you have specific questions related to your case, that might be a better way to ask them. And I know IRC's offices in Sacramento and Leot, you're in Walnut Creek, I believe. So do you also serve clients outside of those regions, or I know the IRC has offices all over the state, but
we do.
great, thank you. All right, in the meantime, if there are any other questions, please do put them in the Q&A box. And if not, I am going to ask that you all complete our survey and let us know your thoughts about today's presentations, I hope that you're able to get some of your questions answered. And just to share again that at the Center for Immigrant and Refugee Health, we do have a resource database on our website that Dr. Ezra has shared in the chat with you all. If you have additional questions about resources or I guess immigration questions would not be for us, but if you have resource questions, please do feel free to reach out to me directly. I'll put my email in the chat as well. And you can reach out to our speakers for any immigration related questions. And I'll be sharing the slides and recording with you all in the coming days. And just a huge thank you again to Leah and Ahmad and Zaki. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here and share this really important information with the community. And we really appreciate you all.
You too.
Thanks to you. Thank you very
Sure.
much.
Thank you all for the work that you're doing. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.